series Retrogaming. This is celebrating my 20 years of being a gamer. In this series, we take a look back at some of the classic games from the old days, from some of the original consoles that started it all. When games looked like these, not these. Now I'm going to be reviewing not just bad games, but also I'm going to be reviewing good games as well. And I'm always willing to take requests. But just remember, I need to have the game in order to review it. Now the consoles I'm going to be reviewing are NES, SNES, and Sega Genesis. Or Mega Drive as some people call it. Now, without further ado, let's get to the review. Now, to start off our series, I will review one of the best games of all time, or perhaps voted the greatest game of all time, and the first video game that I have ever played. Yes, we're talking about the famous Super Mario Bros. For the NES. Now, why is this the greatest game of all time, you ask? Now, before I answer that question, let's pop this cartridge in the Nintendo and fire her up. Now to answer the question. First off, not all the cartridges were sold with just the game Super Mario Bros. Some of them were paired with Duck Hunt, like this one. And some of the Duck Hunt bundle cartridges also had world-class track meet as well. Super Mario Bros. Was also the best-selling game of all time, with more than 40 million copies sold worldwide. However, that number was outmatched by the game Wii Sports in 2009. Second, almost every NES and Famicom system came packaged with the game Super Mario Bros. So, for anyone who owned a Nintendo Entertainment System or Famicom growing up, there's a pretty good chance that you played the original game. Although, Super Mario Bros. Was not Mario's first game, and he was not originally called Mario. Wait, what? Yes, he appeared 4 years earlier, in 1981, in the arcade hit Donkey Kong, as Jumpman, and was originally portrayed as a carpenter, not a plumber. It wasn't until the Mario Bros. Arcade that they changed him to a plumber, and it was also the first appearance of his younger brother Luigi. Now the story of Super Mario Bros. Is you have to save the Mushroom Kingdom by rescuing Princess Toadstool from the evil King Koopa. But the one thing is, they don't tell you that in the game that's the story. They only tell you that in the manual. So I find that a little strange. You press start and you're playing the game. Kind of like Contra. They don't give you a backstory in the game to tell you why you're going on this quest. It just drops you right into the game. Anyway, let's not judge the game just because of that. Besides, we all know what our objective is anyway. Rescue the princess. Now the game itself, well, it's a side-scroller, where you have to travel through 8 worlds, dodging many enemies along the way, jumping on various platforms, swimming through oceans, exploring the underworld, and traveling down warp pipes. Although the one thing you can't do is go back. So if you forgot something like a power-up or a coin block, you won't be able to backtrack and have a second chance at getting it. On top of that, you have a time limit to reach the goal at the end of the level. And if the timer runs out, you'll die. You'll know the timer is getting low because you'll hear the music start speeding up, telling you to hurry up. The only bad thing about this is that it can make you nervous and cause you to mess up in the end. But one thing that makes this game so nice is that the control is so fluent. The D-pad moves Mario left or right. Pushing down will allow him to duck or enter a certain warp pipe. And up will allow him to climb the beanstalks to the bonus stages. A makes Mario jump, and holding B makes Mario run. And if you happen to pick up a fire flower, B will make Mario shoot fireballs at enemies, taking them out in one shot. The power-ups you will encounter are the Super Mushroom, which makes Mario grow twice his size. Once Mario is supersized, he will have the ability to break bricks. Now most people think Mario is breaking bricks with his head, but if you look closely, you can see there is a little hand just above his hat that is actually breaking the brick. So he is really breaking it with his fist, not his head. There's also the Fire Flower, which I mentioned earlier, that will become Fiery Mario and have the ability to throw fireballs. Most of the enemies you can kill in one shot with a fireball, although there are some they will have no effect against, like the Buzzy Beetles. For that, we will have to go to Mario's most powerful power-up, the Invincible Star. Once Mario grabs this, he will be invincible, but only for a short period of time. And last, there's the 1-Up, or Extra Life Mushroom, but you will have to go out of your way to find it, because it's invisible and hidden very well in certain levels of the game. Other than stomping on enemies and throwing fireballs, the other way to fight back is to use the enemies themselves. Stomp on one of the Koopas or Buzzy Beetles and their shell becomes a weapon of mass destruction. But watch out! If the shell ricochets, it can backfire. If you were Super or Fiery Mario, you will shrink back to normal Mario, but if you weren't, you'll die. This game can get really challenging when you're trying not to die, especially towards the end when some parts of the levels are so overcrowded with enemies. Now, I know there's one thing I have to say that's kind of strange speaking of the levels. I've happened to notice after playing through the game that some of the levels are just copy and paste ones. The only difference is that they've added some extra enemies and traps on them. For example, the 2 water levels are the exact same thing, just different modifications. And the same goes for some of the castles as well if you compare them side by side. And level 2-3 and level 7-3 is the exact same level. The only difference is that they added Koopa Troopas to make it harder. And level 1-3 and level 5-3 is also the exact same. The only difference is in level 5-3 they have bullet bills. Now, don't get me wrong, I really don't have a problem with this. But as a game designer myself, I think that a little more level layouts would have given a little more problem solving for gamers to help them figure out how to beat the level. Because with copy and paste levels, once you've beaten the level the first time, and you see it again later on in the game, you already know how to beat it, which takes away a little bit of the challenge. Not sure if the game designers did this on purpose, or if they just wanted to get the game out faster. Now, it's been said that anyone could beat Super Mario Bros. But apparently, it's not true. According to Hot Hardware, about 90% of gamers cannot even finish the first level of Super Mario Bros. Yes, you've heard me right. They can't even get past level 1-1. Even worse, about 70% of those people can't even get past the first Goomba. Yes, and if you don't believe me, there's a link in the video description that will tell you all about it. Let's move to graphics. The graphics were one of the vast improvements at the time. Around the time of the early 1980s, the sprites of video game characters began to look more realistic, with arms and legs. Although it was still 2D, it was really amazing technology at that time. Although for an 8-bit game, there really isn't too much to say, but the game actually does give off some 3D effects. For instance, when you look at the pipes in the game, they almost look as if they are cylinder, as well as the spikes on the spinies. And some of the blocks give off a 3D effect the way they are shaded. Now last, let's talk about sound. As far as it goes, Super Mario Bros. Has one of the most recognizable soundtracks out there. Its overworld and underworld themes were so popular that they were remade several times for various Mario games. In fact, almost every Mario game has a remake of the underground melody for its underworld levels when you really think about it. Games like Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario 64, Mario Party, and even Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Same goes for the theme of the Invincible Star. Also, Super Mario Bros. Has a variety in sounds. Just listen. For instance, there's a different sound from when you jump as normal Mario than when you jump as Super Mario. Same goes for when hitting the bricks with the different sized Marios. And who can forget this famous sound of grabbing one of those glowing coins? Not to mention the relieving sound of a 1-up. Now it's time to give my overall rating for Super Mario Bros. Now the rating system for the games are based upon 6 components: storyline, gameplay, graphics, sound/music, control, and replayability. And each one is rated from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. Now, the storyline for Super Mario Bros., we all know it, so it's a little cliche, and not to mention they don't tell you what it is in the beginning of the game, like I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to have to give it an 8 out of 10. The gameplay is simple, challenging, but not too complex, and it's entertaining to all ages. It gets a 10 out of 10. The graphics for its time gets a 10 out of 10. The sound and music is one of the most memorable, so it gets a 10 out of 10. The control is one of the most fluent of any NES game, and gets a 10 out of 10. And finally, replayability. I'm willing to play this game anytime, although the only downside is being the second player in 2-player mode, where you have to wait until your friend dies so you could get a turn to play as Luigi. So for that reason, it gets a 9.5 out of 10. So overall, I have to agree with the public and the websites that this truly is the greatest game of all time. Super Mario Bros. For the NES gets a final rating of 10 out of 10. So if you're a gamer and you have not played this game, personally, I don't know what you're doing with your life. This is a must-play game. And if you don't know anyone with an NES, it's always available on the Wii store. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next review.